Buenas tardes. Good evening. Welcome to Que Pasa Mujer. Welcome to Que Pasa Mujer. Bienvenidos a Que Pasa Mujer. Estamos aquí todos los domingos a las 4 de la tarde. We're here every Sunday at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And today is Super Bowl Sunday, but we're not celebrating it during the show. I guess we'll acknowledge it perhaps a little bit. I don't really follow it too much. I never really grew up around sports. And I think also part of it too is because I came to the States when I was 9. And so I was surrounded by a whole bunch of women that didn't watch sports. So I really haven't really been engulfed in it. I actually enjoy more of the college sports and high school sports, not so much professional. But, I still watch it from time to time if I get invited to a Super Bowl party. So today is just Maddie and I. So we're going to go ahead and bring Maddie on when Mark, our producer, Fantastico, is ready. How are you, Maddie?
Buenas tardes, ¿qué pasa, mujer?
How
Doing
are you?
okay, doing
Good,
okay. We're here.
good. I love. Tell me about the jewelry. What's the energy today like?
I was trying to go for a Taino feel, since that's going to be our topic, indigenous kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, what do I have that goes? I wasn't feeling too colorful today. So I was like, okay, I have black jewelry that kind of goes with the theme. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Um. How was your week?
Um, it was
Just the good, not the bad or the evil. Just the good about it.
it's been a challenging week, and let's just say that I am thankful to be here, and I'm just grateful I made it out. Just
As
put
Nick
my
Day would say, you're grateful for the chair.
Yeah, exactly. To be sitting on the chair, yes.
Be grateful for the chair. Okay. Well, for me, it's just been a lot of activity with my son figuring out his life after high school. And then basketball season is coming to an end. My youngest son, he's doing really good. He's in the 8th grade, but he plays JV basketball. So he's super excited, and he's excited because he starts and he's scoring. So it's fun. And then my oldest son is just at a pivotal point in his life where he's making life decisions. Basketball, academics. He's graduating with an associate's degree from high school. So it's like he's above majority of the people that are graduating. But then, what's the next move? Is it a money move? Is it an academic move? Is it a basketball move? So I've just been talking to him about just kind of write down your options and then just do the pros and the cons and see what you think, what do you led to move in what direction, because it's a big decision. And we don't want him to say, oh, mom said or dad said. You can ask for advice, we'll give you our input, but at the end of the day, it's your first kind of like real decision. So it's pretty cool to kind of see him evolve a little bit, because you know how males are, they take forever.
That's awesome.
Right, Mark? So today we have a really special guest. Um, I'm gonna actually have her introduce herself a little bit because I'm like super excited. I don't know if I told you, Maddie, but about 2 weeks ago, I was called to do a training to do talking circles, and within the talking circles is something that was done, that it originates from the indigenous people. Of not one particular region, but just from the
Mhm.
indigenous people. And so they're called talking circles because everybody is in a circle, and there is a circle keeper that ensures that the rules that the circle comes up with are respected. But the circle keeper is not a leader, they're a participant of the circle, right?
Okay.
um and everybody has an equal voice about everything. So unlike the legal system where you have a judge that has the power in that room, even in a place where you might have a mediator, and you have a mediator and then two attorneys and the two clients, somebody still has some type of power as to what happens in the
Mhm.
room when you're running circles. These talking circles of conflict resolution circles, everybody has a voice. So I'm super excited about it because one of the things that was taught to us during the training was there was a scenario where these young boys um, did graffiti on a building, right? They damaged the building. So the people were aware that you can resolve conflict with circles. So they contacted someone to, to facilitate the circle. So instead of them calling the police to file, a complaint and then the boys getting, legal consequences, they decided to conduct a circle. And that's how they were able to resolve the issue. So everybody had a voice as to why it happened, how it made everybody feel. The boys ended up, fixing the damages. They volunteered and they actually had a long-term relationship with the building and the people inside of it after they made damage to it, because they went into the circle and they fixed the issue within the circle instead of going to the police department. Yeah, so stuff like that. And it comes from the indigenous conflict resolution, how things used to be done, back in the day, and we can easily bring it back today. We don't always have doesn't mean that everybody has to go to jail because they do something as graffiti, let's say. Yep, so it was cool. So we're gonna bring our guest, Jeannie. Whenever you're ready, Mark. I'm super excited because I know a little bit about Tainos, but I'm really looking for us to educate us, Jeannie. So I guess if you could tell us just a little bit, don't go, psh, but just a little bit about who are you?
Okay. First, hola mujeres, ¿cómo están? Um, Before I start, I love what you were saying, the conflict resolution, and I want to tell you what you just described as a cacao ceremony back in the days.
Okay.
And the cacao ceremony was what they used to give couples when they used to fight. They used to give them the cacao because cacao is very calming. And then the chief used to say, the cacique used to say, stop your bickering, taste this, drink the cacao. And then when they used to come back, they used to say, well, we don't have anything to, it's gone. And they used to go home and chief used to say, done. So,
Oh, that's what my grandmother says,
uh-huh.
come cacao, because it's like there's
Yeah,
nothing left.
see, our grandmothers,
Oh, I
elders,
never knew that.
keepers.
I
So
wonder if she knows that's why she was saying that, like
probably
where it really comes from.
a lot of people don't know they're indigenous and where their sayings came from, and so that's what I teach. But anyway, hi again. I just wanted to let you know what you were doing. It is from an indigenous conflict resolution and where it came from. And see, now you know where she says "come cacao." That's where it comes.
Yeah, you
So
can
my
let me
name is Jeannie. Actually, my birth name is Jeanette, but everybody calls me Jeannie. Ni is water, and Caraya means moon. And I've always loved the moon, so my grandmother used to call me Caraya. So Jeannie Caraya. It's my indigenous name. Who I am simply a woman who grew up with in a tribe, being Taino, with Taino tribe. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, but like we say, New York Rican, because you grow up going from Brooklyn to either Dominican Republic or Brooklyn to Puerto Rico, where you can't grow your stuff. So you learn, my grandmother used to, her name is Antonia. She's no longer with us, rest in peace. She used to, we used to go to Puerto Rico and grab, tamarindos and all that, put it in a plane with it and bring it home and then to do the herbal teas and all that. So that is where I came from. And then growing up, she grew me to be the medicine woman that I am today.
So is she from your father's side, your mother's side? Because that's
Mm,
who your like true connection is with from your childhood.
So a lot of people who ask me, and I'm very forthcoming with this, people ask me, why is it that you can see, hear, do, and do all from both sides? And it's because I came from incest. So therefore, both my DNA are from my mother and my father. So therefore, my great grandmother, which I have a picture of, I can show and tell. This is my indigenous great grandmother. Mira los high cheekbones. And look at your high cheekbones, woman. We all have those high cheekbones.
Yeah.
Indigenous. And then this is Ella. Her name is Mercedes. This is my indigenous great grandfather who was Spanish. And we'll talk about the genocide or whatever later on. But married her. And then the kids are around there. And some of us look Spaniard. And some of us look Puerto Rican. Some of us look black. Some of us look, whatever we look like, we're indigenous.
The mix.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So how did you become interested in the moon? Because I love the moon, and I wish that's one of my to-do lists to like really study it, because I think it's so connected to the woman and how we cycle.
It actually is. It comes from being indigenous. We are indigenous people are star nations, first of all. We follow astrology. Astrology, now everybody's, it's a trend to follow astrology, but indigenous people, we followed with our semis, right? Our semi atabe. Look, I'm wearing atabe right now.
Mhm.
Atabe and yukahu and huracan. Hurricane is a word. Huracan.
Mhm.
And huracan, right, is a Taino word. I got the goosies again. And our words come from Star Nation. Okay. And so it is no reason that you follow the moon, because the moon has everything to do. We call grandma the moon for a reason. She shows us our wisdom. She gives us our light. She uploads our downloads. When we sit in the sun, what does she do? She makes us happy. She just gives us all the wisdom. So back then, right, the Tainos, any indigenous tribe, they didn't have no anything but to follow what? The things that they were shown, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was grandmother moon, father sun. So those were the gods, astrology. And it's still
Yeah, I remember my grandmother saying that, just back in, and I'm Colombian, by the way, but back in the day, how they would do their crops would be depending on, they would depend on the sky, the moon, and the stars. Also, she would tell me how not to pull a tooth out when there was like a full moon or a new moon or something. They just had certain things that they did because everything is energy based.
Everything is energy based. For instance, if we are doing a ceremony and a woman has her menstrual cycle, she can't sit in with us. It's a lot, because we can't pull in from that energy. So there's a lot that goes into those things, and that's like going
That's
into
a whole nother show.
That's for another show, yeah. But sacred things, because a woman is supposed to bleed in the cycle, the 13 cycles. That's that's for like another show, to show you how we do full moon ceremonies. But yes, that's why Caraya. And even at early ages, I used to sit there for hours and hours and hours just looking at the moon.
Yeah, I'm super intrigued by it, and that's why I want to study it a little bit more, because I know it's nothing but energy.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I know we haven't like gotten too much into the culture, but I know reading from the Taino heritage that it was very empowering for women too. It was not like you think about old time warriors, and immediately when you say the word warrior, a man comes to mind.
No,
But in the Taino culture, it's very woman heavy, very woman empowering. Like for example, I was reading that your titles are passed down through your mother lineage, not the father. So the caciques, their title of caciques came from their mothers, for example.
From the women, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also reading how agriculture was mainly dominated by the women. Women took care of the agriculture, and the men were the hunter and the fishers. So talk to us a little bit. I mean, you were talking about the moon and all that female energy, but also those other things that we don't necessarily think women, but that's how it was back then.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the machismos that are in this world, let me tell you, the first time that I started dating my husband, I told him, I want you to know that I'm indigenous. He goes, yeah, I know. Remember, we were friends. I said, no, but I want you to know that women come first, and that women hold the, the bolas. And he's like, I have no problem with that because I know. I said, okay, as long as you know, because women, and it's not just Tainos and indigenous men hold their women up here. Why? Because of Atabe. Atabe is a very important semi, and she's the one that gives birth, and she's the one that gives us the fresh water, and she's the one that does the nature, and they respect that. And because of that, women are here. But we are warriors. Have you seen
Ginny,
Echo yet?
before you go any further, can you explain a little bit about the semi? I know what a
Yeah.
semi is. Can you
Okay.
explain what a semi is?
So semis are the mythology, and we say mythology because this was back then. Okay. So mythology is what the Tainos believed in, and some we still do, but in a certain way of to bring it into the modern way. So I'm talking up now about the indigenous ways back before 1492, before genocide, and the semis were created. Well, Atabe was our mother. You know how some consider Mother Mary, right? So the analogy for that, ours is Atabe, and actually designed this. So this is Atabe right here.
That's
She
gorgeous.
is giving birth. Well, okay. See, she looks like the frog, and she was actually written in the picture how do you say that, petroglyphs in the cuevas in Camuy in Puerto Rico. So the reason why we
I
know a
visited
lot
La
of
Cuevas when I went to Puerto Rico.
yes, girl, I'm dying to take my husband, and he wants to go, but every time we're gonna go, there's a hurricane. So I'm like, chill with the hurricanes, huracan. I want to go to Puerto Rico. But yeah, so they're the pictoglyphs. Not to go too far, but they were the reason why we know that there's a set. Those are our semis is because they were written in the like Egypt with the symbols. They were written in the rocks and the monuments. Here are some right here. This is the sun, and that we think that coqui right there, that was to represent Atabe because you see how she's giving birth.
All right.
And
Yeah.
not to mention that now people are giving birth like that, like Atabe, right?
Yes.
So that's one of her. So she represents birth, rebirth, like the phoenix. She represents water. She represents fertilization, rebirth, like equinox. And the other one that I keep mentioning is huracan, which is hurricane, and he's he's the one that's like this, and he represents the hurricane. So
So the semis are like kind of the semis to the
I like
times were kind of like gods, like the god, but they're spirits, and they change and they look different. That's why we can see a picture of Atabe looking a certain way and then
so
depicted differently.
she's also called Atabeira. So she has many names. But then again, Mary, Mother of God, has many names. See, I don't understand why people judge so much because everything has a name for everything, right? And we also have Yukahu, which is the Juka. Juka represents everything because when they didn't have food and we were enslaved, because everybody talks about slaves, but they don't know indigenous people were were enslaved. Okay, my grandmother was one of them. And so Juka was all we had. That's how cassava came up, and that's how fried bread came up, and that's how we celebrated because the government thought that they were going to kill us with just giving us flour and all that, but we made it. So
And the yucca has strong roots.
what? Whew, if there's not a juca in my refrigerator, my grandmother, she goes like this. I'm like, I know, I gotta go buy some.
It's funny because I buy the frozen ones, and I when my dad is home, I have to have a bag of frozen yuca in the fridge because that's his go-to lunch, every day.
It's in us. It's in our DNA. It's in our DNA to have that juca. So those are the main, and guavanex, and those are the other ones, the other small ones, the other mythological ones. So.
Also, let me ask too. The name Taino. I was reading a little bit on that, and it says that it used to be the word was ni Taino. the original word, and then it got shortened to Taino, and it meant like you were elite, kind of
Mm-mm.
like the elite population. That's kind of how how the
That's a myth.
okay.
So I tell a lot of people to ask a Taino if that's true or not. Taino means noble people,
Hmm.
and Taino actually is what they called us. If there's a book that I want you to read, is from Frank Pareto, and he is the one. I'll give you the link. I'm probably saying the name wrong, but I'm going to give you the link. The reason we know what happened, because a lot of people ask us, how do you know what happened? Because we read the first book, the very first book that was written by the person who traveled with Columbus. He described what happened. He described what they saw. He described everything, and it's hard. This book cost like 500 and something dollars. But one of our chiefs, well, my first chief, where he was a cacique Jorge Bacaru. He was from the Smithsonian, but he did a lot of research, and he had us read it as a group because those were the facts, and we needed to know the facts, you know, of the culture of how we talk and stuff like that. I'm in another group now. I'm in another tribe, and that chief is he knows a lot too, and he comes from a legal standpoint, and he knows um, that we are Arawakans. We are Arawakans, okay, and he's more of a all indigenous people need to get together, and stop this. You're that, you're that color, you're this, you're this, you're that. First of all, indigenous people, there's no color, okay? No color, okay? And because a lot of people look at me and be like, you're indigenous? Yeah, very much so. I just looked like, it wasn't my fault that Columbus came and threw my grandfather in Puerto Rico, and now I look like him, you know? But yeah, so to get back to your thing, no, Taino, there was no other name. It's Arawakan Tainos, and then there's sub people, but that's another that I mean we can talk like in another thing, and it's a lot. That's why I do teachings of Taino, because there's a lot subcategories and all that.
How long did you live with your grandmother?
Okay, so I wrote a book. I lived with my grandmother. Well, in Brooklyn, it's like right across the street. So
Right.
I lived with my grandmother till I was 7, and then I was ripped away from her arms. But and the first floor was my aunt, who was Mercedes' daughter, and so she grew me also. So no matter where
Mhm.
I was Taino,
You
and
were
then
always getting the teachings.
I was getting the teachings. Yeah, I was getting the teachings. Now, along with that came the gifts, the seer's gifts. And that, if you want to go into later, we can do that. But we want to
Yeah.
stick to Taino. Now, Taino culture, is much about spirituality. So if you want to ask questions about that, or, whatever you want to.
So, do you have children? How do you introduce this culture? How young can you start, right? And
Very.
how do you teach it,
Okay.
or how did you do it?
Okay. So I love this question because I have 2 sons by the miracle of the creator. I have 2 boys, Aaron and Kyle. So, and one se parece a ti, Maddie, y uno es blanquito como yo. And so the way I introduced it is and my firstborn is Dominican, Puerto Rican, indigenous, and the one that looks like me is Puerto Rican indigenous. Okay, but we scratched all that. We said you're both indigenous, and whatever you want, I left it up to them. I never said you're gonna grow up indigenous, you're gonna do this or that. I left it up to them. But the way I introduced it was my little one went to the Native American Museum when he was like 5, and he was like, "Ma, I want to wear a shirt. I want to wear a shirt." And I did one of the shirts that says, "I am Taino." he went to the Native American Museum and he saw the Taino, he was like, Mommy, that's what I am. That's what I am. And then from there, he got interested and he was like, Mommy, I want long hair because long hair represents strong. And if you see my 25-year-old, he has long curly hair and nobody can tell him anything. He has a long nose. Everybody's like, you look more indigenous than your mom. And I'm like, but you introduce them by being transparent. They talk to you about Columbus or whatever, small or whatever, and you tell them, well, you don't talk negative. You just say, well, they have it wrong because this is really what happened. You just, that's what I did with my boys. Well, you're not going dressed well, no, you're not. This is what you're going to do. You're going to go dressed as a thing that says, I am Taino. And if they have questions, talk to me. And that's how it went.
Did you ever feel any resistance from them or rejection that they were like, Mom, you're crazy?
My oldest one. My oldest one is the most skeptical one. He lives in China now. But he's the most skeptical one. And then when I started my teachings, right, and I started posting pictures, and he's like, Mom, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. He was like, Mom, I'm sorry I ever doubted you. Look at us. I mean, look at you. You're killing it. He was like, and now he's like, yeah, I'm indigenous and I'm married to an Asian woman and my kids are going to be beautiful, indigenous, dark skin with green eyes and indigenous. He's just like so. And then my little one, forget it. He's a mini-me. He's like, yeah, I'm indigenous. This is my name. My name is Hawkeye and blah, blah, blah. So he decided to walk in medicine man. He wants to be a medicine man. So, yeah.
So you mentioned a lot your Taino name. So do you have your your government names and then you give yourself Taino names? So how do you pick your Taino names?
You don't pick it. So my chief. Okay, so this is I want to tell you how it is because a lot of people ask. So for me, I'm in a tribe, right? I have a cacique. A cacique means chief. You're in a tribe and I'm the bejique. So a lot of people are like, what is behaik? I had to change my name because people thought I was a scammer. When they would see bejique, they were like, they wouldn't want to be my friend. So I had to change it to Gini Caraya Payet. So, and then in the parentheses it says bejique. Bejique means medicine woman. So every tribe, I'm in the Yaya Guaili, and I'll put the link if you want. And every tribe has a cacique, and in the cacique, you have a council, and then in the council they say you're the bejique, you're the bahuti, you're this, you're that. Now the cacique is the one that gives you. He sits with the ancestors in a ceremony, and he sees your personality and what you do, and they give you your name. So Caraya was given by my grandmother, but I have a huge name, is Guatamacu. And it's so long. It is Guali Guatamacu, and it means fire noble eyes. And in back then, those people were called who can see through the smoke, and those are seers.
Does that have like so the Tainos? So if you could kind of tell us a little bit like the geographical piece of this, right? The Tainos were in everywhere where we call today South America. Like where were the Tainos in reference to the regions, what we call it today?
Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Bahamas.
Cuba.
That's why we call Caribbean, Cuba, and all the Caribbeans. We are the Caribbean Native American. We don't even like to be called Native Americans because we were here first.
Right.
So there are a lot of African Americans that I speak to, and they're like, I was here first. And the government was the one who separated us, right? And they're Tainos. They go back and they place themselves as they're Tainos. It's crazy. So, yeah. So I have a map, actually. Do you want to see the map?
Sure. I love it.
It's beautiful.
So just before you start talking about that, our producer Mark said that I guess he pulled up some information from the World Bank report of indigenous Latin America in the 21st century. And they say that there's about an estimated 42 million indigenous people in Latin America.
And growing.
And those are we always talk about this, right? And that's, oh, let me say my 3.2 trillion before I forget.
No. Mira qué lindo is this is this
Oh, I see it.
here. Do you see the map where and then you see the Tainos in the Caribbean right over there?
Gotcha. Okay.
It shows in the map, it shows where back then it was Cherokee, Taino, and all that.
Right. Yeah, because we talk about the just the impact. We
Yeah.
usually use the word Latino, Hispanic, right? But we know, we are aware of our where we come from, which is our indigenous people, right?
Right.
Like I'm from Colombia, and my grandmother's from my mom's side of the family, our last name is Sutachan. And we haven't really been able to like really to pinpoint it to what indigenous people it was from, because it's such a unique last name. But I think they have like cheap chas or something like that, some other regions. But we also always talk about how important it is to, like you were saying earlier, that it doesn't matter the different type of indigenous people that we are, just like Puerto Rican, Dominican, Colombian, Venezuelan, we're all the same people. And yeah, through division and conquer, that's where the division took place. So one of the things that we try to do on this show, and that's what we appreciate the platform that we have, is to start to like, let's open it back up and let's like be reunited and not be so divided. So I love the fact that you mentioned that in the indigenous community is kind of like the same sentiment.
And that's what we're trying to bring back. But the colonized minds, it's always trying to separate us. And the millennials now, even more so, they're the ones like, you're not indigenous because look at you, and we have to go back and teach them that that's not who we are. Who we are, people who we want harmony. We want harmony. This is who we are. We want to bring harmony back. We want to bring nature is a big thing. If we don't have the right frequency and harmonize with earth, with nature, same things are going to keep happening. Pandemics over and over and over. Everything is energy. Everything is frequency. Look at our mental health system. Okay. It's only going to get worse and worse if we do not get on the same frequency, if we don't get on the same harmony, if we don't harmonize together and stop with this colonized brain of just cutting up people and being so insensitive. So many people are so, how do you call it, desensitized, and I don't understand. Just be compassionate, but hey.
And I think
people keep saying it over and over again,
as we grow and as we evolve, that's one of the things that we talk about in this show a lot. And like Viviana said, we're so thankful for our platform. We talk a lot about how before our parents, or when we first, when that generation first came into the States, everything was like very visual. Okay, you're white, you're black, and in our countries, we don't have such thing, because we have such a mix of so much. But as we see with the new generation, we are so racially mixed, and there's so much of everything that people no longer consider themselves one or the other. I am this mix of a bunch of beautiful things. And, we see our children, saying, I don't speak Spanish, but I'm Latino, or I'm, Dominican, like I have 3 kids. And I talk about it all the time. My children were born here. They've been to Dominican Republic maybe twice, 3 times in their lifetime. But, my daughter is the most Dominican thing you will ever encounter in your life. I'm Dominican, so we see a lot of that. So to be able to educate our children and trace it back to that part of your heritage, of your culture, and be able to say, I am Taino, I'm a descendant of so-and-so, I'm a cacique, or, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing, is teaching your children so that they can teach their children and teach their children and children's children, and then we won't be wiped out like what they did before. And so I always talk about paper genocide, and that's what the government did to us. This is why everybody thinks that we don't exist, is because what they did is back then they my grandmother was black and my great grandfather was white. So they kept doing this, and then they cut us off. That's why people say we don't exist. They committed paper genocide. They completely cut us off. So now what we do is when they say, you know, in those little papers, who are you? We cross it out. We say Taino.
Right.
We're allowed to.
Yeah, I create my own box sometimes if it
I
doesn't
create my
fit.
own box. I put Taino. And they're like, what's that? I'm like, that's who I am. And they're
Look
like,
at Google it. Google it. That's what you gotta say.
Google it,
Taino, what's
ask me.
that? Google it.
You're my cats. I'm like, you're Taino. You're Taino. You're Taino. You're Taino. Okay, you're black, but you're Taino too. So, but yeah.
Jeannie, question for you. You mentioned, I mean, we talked a little bit about how you pass the education, or how you introduce your children to the culture, and you just said that it is important that we educate our children. What is the one thing that you think is crucial for your children to know and be very aware of, so that they can pass to the next generation?
One thing that's important to know is that to be indigenous is, it's forever in your heart. It's nothing that, you know, it's material. You know, you don't have to wear an indigenous hat or indigenous anything. This is all because I go to ceremonies and all that. You carry your heritage in your heart. As long as you do that, you'll be great.
Do you practice certain, is there certain rituals that you do at home that come specifically from your culture? For example, I say that because, like, for us, it's important to you know, to have dinner as a family every night. You know, it's important to eat certain foods during the holidays. It is important every time we get together. There are certain elements that are a part of it. Like we joke all the time, when it's raining, you make sancocho. So, you know, my kids look out the window, they're like, oops, we're eating sancocho today, you know? So it's one of those things. So, like, do you guys do the same thing?
So you make sancocho today?
And it's
I didn't. Listen, I just got out of bed. So
well, we have certain things that we do, and it's right because it's from Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, we make, you know, pasteles, and we make this, and we make that, we make cassava. But we also I do retreats twice a month, and I do ceremonies, letting go ceremonies. I do full moon ceremonies and all that. But every morning, in this picture here, my I dress up like this, and I do ceremony, and I pray over the water, and I pray for everybody's. The birds came to validate. You see all those birds? They came to validate. But there are things that I do teach my kids, and it's breathe and be grateful. That is very important. No matter what you're going through, be grateful. So
Awesome.
yeah, and it's funny because I do that too. So ceremony is really important for us. And to teach people to let go of what no longer serves you and bring in gratefulness.
Amazing. Before I go on to my next question, I just want to say thank you to our audience, because we have people watching us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube as well. So we just want to say thank you for giving us the time to listen to us and to teach you about our culture. One question that I have, Jeannie, is because I always find rituals, traditions so intriguing from like different cultures, right?
Mhm.
What are some things that you guys do when somebody dies?
Yeah.
Like what is the meaning of that? Because I know people are like, you know, they go through mourning, and it's for some cultures is like, let's, you know, celebrate life. And for other people is like, let's dress in black and let's mourn and let's cry. So what is it for our indigenous people?
And that's celebrated in different indigenous tribes differently.
Mm.
I could only speak for what we do, like in our tribe or in my family. In our tribe, we create altars. We create altars for our people who have passed over. And for me, it's kind of different because for me, I don't believe in, well, for me, we believe in the Soraya, right? Soraya is the place where they go because we come in as souls and we leave as souls. So for me, the transitioning is just going to a higher place, right? So they go to a higher place. And some people, I have an altar, right? Because these guys were in the altar. They were in my altar. I just took them out. And where did my grandma go? But they are in my altar, and then we feed them when we have los Dia de los Muertos, the day of
The
Of the
death.
dead.
yeah, the Day of the Dead, and that's how we honor them. So we give them offerings, but of course you mourn them. You mourn them, and we give them a. Last time we had somebody who passed away in our tribe, we just got together and we said a few things, and then we placed them in. We made a gourd. So there's a gourd that the caciques make, and it's something traditional. I'm not sure if I can say it or not. I have to ask my cacique, but it's kind of like a gourd.
Okay, I was like, go ahead, say it. But you have to ask on your end. On our end, we don't have to ask permission to anybody. We just say whatever we want.
Gourd. It's a gourd that he made, and it just had things to remember him by. But and then we put him on the, and then you put him on the whoever it is on your altar.
Do you cremate or do you bury people?
That's that's up to your family.
Okay.
Family, yeah, that's up to your family.
That was my next question, Maddie.
That's up to your family. I want to be cremated, so that's up to your family. There's no wrong or right or.
Do you guys also do the 9 días? I know in Dominican Republic, that's kind of when somebody passes away, you have the 9 days that you pray over the body before you bury the body. Do you guys do something similar? Or? Okay.
No.
So I find this so interesting how just everybody does, when somebody's born and when somebody passes away, weddings, the dedication
I
to
do indigenous weddings.
you do what?
I do indigenous weddings.
Wow, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was gonna ask you, why did we stop the indigenous traditions? Give me one. I know this probably maybe we could talk for hours about this, but
Right?
what is that one that you think is the root reason why?
Because the government and the church stop the indigenous ways.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. What was that? Yeah, so that's the short answer as to why I stopped the
Yeah.
rescue.
Mainly, they threatened, our ancestors.
Yeah. I know that there's a lot of hurt within the indigenous community because of everything that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
And I know you know there's always movements, there's always organizations trying to just make things better, to heal it, and I think just the fact that if the government were to just acknowledge, right, I think that's the beginning of healing, is just the acknowledgement. And I think
Yeah.
on our end, for us to receive it, and for it to also be a transparent, a genuine acknowledgement, right? And I think a lot of the times that's all we're looking for is that acknowledgement, that serious acknowledgement.
A sorry or something, but we're never gonna get it.
It's a we see you, it's like it's not I don't think it's anymore about apologizing, because I don't think there's enough I'm sorry's that
Right.
are
But
going to
it's
cover everything that has been done, so. And I think, as population, we kind of are learning to kind of move forward and then take advantage of platforms like this, or any place where we can go and let our voices be heard, so that people know where we are, we're here, so that people acknowledge, and that people can say, I see you. Because like Viviana said, at the end of the day, we just want to know, one, that we belong, that we have a place, and that we are not being, shut down.
Shut down. We're told to shut up, and
Right.
told, don't do this, because that's what the law is there for, to tell us not to do our ceremonies and things like that.
Right.
Because yeah, I do them right in my backyard, right in there, and people try to stop me, and I'm like, you can't. That's too much.
Right.
So yeah.
So I heard you mention that you wrote a book. What's the name of the book? Or what is the book about?
The first one I've written is called Spiritual Freedom, and it is about learning how to get your inner child back when it's been taken away.
Your inner child.
Yes. For instance, if you've had a trauma and you're depressed, it tells you straightforward how to get that happiness back. And in the back, it has a workbook that you can go to and work your way and find out what it is that's keeping you from your happiness.
I
And
see.
then the second workbook is called Manifesting Your Life's Desires, how to manifest, because you are a co-creator. Nothing's stopping you from what you want. And then the third one is called Let's Get Centered, and I did that for mental health. It was on 2020 when everybody didn't know what to do, and it's a coloring workbook with a lot of affirmations. And you can find them all on Amazon, or you can ask me and I can order them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite to like write, or the process of it? I'm sure you like all of them, because if not, you wouldn't have written them. But which one were you like?
Let's Get Centered. Yeah. Spiritual
So
freedom.
you currently train people to manifest,
Mm-hmm.
to heal their inner child.
Oh yeah. And I also I have actually three companies. I have one called Mobile Psychic Soul Connections, and in there I service people with ancestral healing, mediumships. I do cards. I do healings. I do Reiki. So anything that has to do with healing, that's what I do at Mobile Psychic Soul Connections. The next one that's coming out is called Holistic Life Healing and Natural Wellness Practice, and that is more mainstream to help with doctors with red light therapy and herbalism and things like that. But as far as the healings with ancestral, that's where you go to get my services for healings and trauma and things like that. I also do classes to learn about indigenous people and
Mm.
demonic
You do them in person or virtual or both?
virtual, because I can get to so many people, virtually.
Do you let me ask you, so we have our partner that's not here today, Nite. She is our advertising guru, and she utilizes color. She's very vibrant and she works a lot with color.
Mhm.
So do you does color influence
Yeah,
what you do as well, and
yeah.
what would you say are
I
some
do
of the
color
more
therapy.
influential ones?
I do color therapy and I do it with children. So I have my diploma in child psychology, and I feel that color therapy really works with kids, and aromatherapy really works with kids.
What is
Um,
color therapy?
Color therapy is actually great because, for instance, you put that on right today because you thought Taino, right? Well, you wound up picking right because look at the colors that I picked were black and white. Intuitive or not, you put that on, right? So when you wake up in the morning and you look at the colors, if you're feeling happy, right, you're gonna pick a color yellow or a nice color. If you're not feeling great, I'm pretty sure you're going to pick a black color or whatever. So color therapy is learned actually in school, in kindergarten, right? You don't do good, you're going to get red. You do good, you're going to do green. So color therapy is everything. That's how I know when a child is not feeling good. I put a pair of glasses, colored glasses, and I tell them, pick which kind of glasses you want to put on. If they pick the color wheel, they pick the sunglasses, I know what mood they're in without them having to tell me. So it's a great service to have.
I had a question about your book, Spiritual Freedom. Talk to me a little bit about the inner child and does everybody have an inner child?
Yeah.
And what are some like how do you know that it's there? Like how do you know my inner child versus I had trauma? Because when this happened to me when I was 7.
Okay, so your inner child, you have your inner child, and you're happy, and you're outside, and then something happens to you. Whether you learn, whether your parent screams at you, or something traumatic happens to you, right? And then you let it go because you're a kid. But then growing up, there's that something that always brings you back and triggers you. It's a trigger, right? Like, don't scream at me because it triggers me. But why does it trigger me? You don't know why. So what I would do, I would do a soul retrieval with you, and it's journeys. So I do journeys, spiritual journeys, and in that spiritual journey, it will come. I will have you. It will come from your sacral chakra, which is where your trauma is, all the way come up to your mind, and you'll be like, "Darn! When I was 4 years old, I was doing nothing, and I got screamed at, and that stood in my what we called in the shamanic world, we call it our field, our DNA field, right? And it stood there. It's just stuck there. So until you deal with that a trauma that happened to you, it will stay there, and it will keep going like this, and you keep triggered over and over and over and over. And the more that you have traumas, your inner child keeps going like this, and you're stuck, right? You're stuck. You keep being stuck because you're not. And then what happens is that then it goes from emotion to physical. Then all of a sudden you have pain, fibromyalgia,
Disease.
arthritis. And girls, let me tell you, I used to weigh almost 500 pounds because it happened to me, right? For speaking my truth about what happened to me, I was abandoned by my parents. I don't have parents. And so, it just kept on and on and on and on. And I kept drinking everything. And all of a sudden, hi, honey, my husband came home from work. And next thing you know, I was 500 pounds, toxicity and fibromyalgia, I had meningitis 3 times. It was just eating it up until my grandmother came back in spirit and was like, ¿Qué carajo te estás haciendo? Wake up. I didn't raise you this way. Put your feathers on. Go do a soul retrieval. Just she let me have it up there. And then that's when I woke up and I was like, yeah, what the fuck am I doing? I'm letting these people mess with me when we are warriors, right? And then, And then I woke up in 2015, woke up, did my journey, and then I got my tribe, and here I am. So that's how you know. Because you're sick. You're not only sick, you just keep looping back and forth, and it just keeps coming up, and you're depressed all the time. So,
and a lot of the times we see it within our relationships, right? Whether it's romantic relationships or just with our children, and it's just that pattern that we continue to see. Like I've talked about it a lot of the time. Sometimes I think that I have healed something from my past, but something happens and it just kind of takes me right back to that place.
Yeah.
And it's that inner child that needs to be healed.
Mm-hmm. That's why my first son's father, Aaron's father, he was like, I never had what I needed. He was that for me. And then I didn't learn. And then I went to my youngest child's father, who was a narcissist and was, blah, blah, blah. And then I didn't learn. The universe was like, the creator was like, okay, what you didn't learn, pues toma, otro. And then after that, when my grandmother came and she was like, Manda este pal. And then, I started manifesting. I want a good guy. I want to, leave Brooklyn. I want to blah, blah, blah. Throwing out the frequencies of.
Oh no, she blamed Brooklyn.
No, I didn't
Am I
blame
in
Brooklyn. I
Brooklyn?
blamed the people in Brooklyn because it was my parents in Brooklyn, the toxicity, the blah, blah. And no, because my other son's father was in Virginia. So, um,
Yeah, the environment.
todo the environment. And then look, my friend from 4 years said, "You want to go on a date?" And I've been with him for 10 years on February 14th, married 5. So once you find your worth and heal yourself, then you find the frequency that you're sending out. Because if you're sending out unhealed, you're going to find people who are unhealed. And that's what I teach people. Because people come to me, I want love. And they all have anxiety. I'm like, is that what you want? You want that? No, you don't want that. Let's heal yourself first. And then,
Amazing.
you're.
I learned a lot from you today, and it just makes me want to like seek and dig a little bit more. So we'll definitely have you back on again to kind of dig in a little bit because there's so much more.
Oh, there's so much more. I was like, I don't know how long we're gonna be there, but there's so much. But yeah, definitely, I'm enjoying this. I even forgot we were like on live or whatever.
Yeah, that's what happens. Sometimes we're like you're nervous for like 34 seconds and then you just, the flow just goes and the chemistry that we have. And then we just, talk. And then all of a sudden it's like, dang, it's been an hour already. We're ready for next show.
I know.
Mm-hmm. But thank you, Jeannie, so much. I will definitely be in contact with you. If anybody's interested, Mobile Psychic Soul Connections.co is the website. And again, love the information that you gave us. Very genuine, very transparent, very real. I love everything that you do and just your energy. I love it.
Thank you so much for having me on. I've enjoyed myself. Thank you, hermanas. Everything. I just enjoyed your energy. Thank you for having me on.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Maddie, we're ready for your poem.
Sounds good. So again, thank you, Jenny, for being here. Love the information and learning a lot. So thank you for sharing your heart with us. And we like you said it comes from inside, and we felt it. So thank you for that. So this poem I've done a million times now on the show, but Jenny's here, so I want her to hear this one. So I am going to do it one more time. So this poem is called "I Am Who I Am, Mulata." So I hope you guys enjoy it. Okay. So yo soy mulata. Soy una mezcla divina. Soy blanca, negra, india, taína, de matiz, azúcar, crema. Pero soy más que un simple color. Soy fuego, pureza, ardor, quemando dentro de mi ser. Se asienta a su propio nivel, haciendo residencia en mis caderas. Se alegra al sonido del tambor, timbales fuera de control. Azúcar. Celia Cruz, reflejada en mi voz. But I will say it again. Yo soy mulata. I am a mixture of divine, taína black and white in a brown sugar shade. I am sweet, but make no mistake, it goes beyond the colors you get to see. It is this fire burning inside of me, layered between the rhythms cascading from my hips. It is the sound of the drums, timbales out of control. It's in the swirl I carry inside of my soul. Azúcar in my Celia Cruz voice. But I am history. I am a history that's rich. I am what you get when you add Christopher Columbus to the Caribbean born. Merengue, bachata, sabor, puro son. Quisqueya la Bella, that's where I'm from. I am the outcome of the Spanish invasion into an indigenous world, creating our own culture from the new and the old. I am a sancocho full of flavor and sazon, and that's a big gumbo soup for those of you who don't know. I am a blend of the desperate cries and the strength of the caciques who fought so hard to preserve themselves. To our gumbo soup, we added extra broth in the hopes that our past sufferings won't set limits to our pride and our joy. We gave it a kick so that the new generation understands that in order to know where you're going, you must learn of the struggles of those who came first. Our history, we need to know. Being different is no shame. Things will always be hard before they become easy again. Some are a rainbow of color inside, but no, not I. You see, I get to wear mine with pride. It is on my skin. It is branded within my curves. It's in the shape of my nose. It's in the Arawakan influences to the Spanish language that I speak and I love. I can always adapt to where I'm at, but history is written on me. I can choose to hide or I can embrace that I am an amalgamation of the past and the present, the best. I can let others stereotype me or I can educate them, infect them with my state of being, this pride that I feel living inside of my skin. My skin that's not only black, but it is white, it is India, it is Taina, it is the Dominican in me. Understanding who I am before I can teach, not letting one label define me because I am who I am and I will always be this beautiful mix. I am a Dominican mulata, or you can simply call me Maddie. Thank you.
Wow.
Maddie, this was the first poem that I ever heard you recite. And then that's because I always get I like your other poems, right? But this one right here, I was like, oh my God, I'm her number one fan. Because this was the first one that I heard when I met you.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you, ladies. I hope you have an amazing, amazing, amazing week. Ya estamos en febrero. So otro mes in 2024. So I hope you guys have an amazing week and continue to do what you do, for the community. Thank you, Jeannie, so much. Thank you, Maddie. Have an amazing week. Thank you, Mark, and we'll see you guys next Sunday.
Naya hayola Pasa satatwa provincia hakasiritis kitata aymarat mamitajas papitujas partas ifirinuali suman paltas ñaq aymarat.
Bueno, nojata gustaban wiñaypaq idioma porque hermanushni tukuyni parlanku quechuata chay comunidad nasini chaypi tukuy parlanku quechuata. Noqa yaykuqtikuли escuelama recién aprendini parlayta castellanuta.
Por el hecho de que hablar una lengua indígena, en lugar de ser una habilidad adicional porque abre puertas, se le concibe como, o se le entiende, se le vive como un hándicap, como un marcador que va a cerrar puertas. Y entonces existen procesos perversos en donde muchos padres hablantes de lenguas indígenas prefieren que sus hijos no hablen lengua indígena porque saben que esto va a constituir un marcador posterior.
Sabaya firisma wawanagaros yaticha sibayara kiñansas ani nah yatich harakti uksista firisma.
Are just so impressed with them. Like I said, we've been with them for years. I will recommend and refer anyone to them. We stand by A+ academics. They're the best.
A+ tutorial really did help me With all my grades, they all went up when I came to this place. And I would say I recommend this school to everyone.
So it's a really good environment to be in, especially for me because it makes me look up to my parents.
If you have students that need academic help, A+ Academics is the place to be.
A+ Academics, what a great place to go for academics.
It's just a really great place to learn.